Intel's on fire and AMD is getting ready to launch brand new CPUs. The title basically says it all. Some people want more straightforward to the point videos from me. Well, there you go. That says it all. But now a little bit more information about the nitty-gritty details. Okay, first let's take a look at Intel and then we'll talk about what's going on with AMD. So in terms of Intel, Gamers Nexus just dropped a 47-minute diss track video about Intel and everything going possibly wrong with them. Murphy's Law has never been more true here. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong, and all of that has fallen down on Intel. Now, all of my sources will be linked below in the video description, and as always, I will have timestamps, aka chapters, here on YouTube, also for your convenience. Things are so bad with Intel CPUs, and they're failing at such a rapid rate that Intel has now offered a 2-year extended warranty on boxed processors. So that would be like you or me walking into a retail store and buying one off the shelf. This doesn't necessarily apply to OEMs or SIs. In addition to all of that, things are so bad with Intel CPUs that Abington Gold plus Ellery is now looking into a potential class action lawsuit against Intel. And in addition to that, game server providers are switching to AMD. And if this chart is to be believed, then that is a lot of market share for AMD to take away from Intel. Additionally, Tom's Hardware is reporting that Intel is down year over year. How much? Well, by about $1.6 billion. On Thursday, Intel announced its financial results for the second quarter of 2024, and they weren't favorable in the chip giant. The company's revenue dropped 1% year over year, while its losses totaled $1.6 billion. And following up on that, Tom's Hardware also reported that Intel stock has dropped 30% overnight. 30% overnight. That is insane. Company sheds about $39 billion in total market cap. And to top everything off, Intel is also laying off 15,000 employees and will stop non-essential work. So again, Intel is truly on fire here. Things have gone from bad to worse. It's a bad time to be an Intel employee. It's a bad time to be an Intel customer. Basically, no one at this point really wants to be associated with Intel because they're not doing a good job at handling the issue. There are now reports coming out saying that Intel basically knew about their oxidation issues sooner than what they claimed, indicating that they lied to everybody. And then in addition to that, people are reporting that Intel is denying RMA claims, which is definitely a scary thought. Gamers Nexus even talked about this in his video, and basically the logic there was, hey, if you call and try to make an RMA claim with Intel and get denied, just hang up and call again until you get a different representative who will take your RMA. What kind of process is that? That is absolutely terrible and very much anti-consumer all the way around. Now, one interesting story that I found published yesterday by Tom's Hardware, an Intel customer is furious because of the RMA process where Intel basically said their 14900K was in fact fake. Now, long story short, this customer went back and forth with Intel's RMA customer service representative, and they were trying to say, yeah, we'll take it under warranty. Oh, on second thought, that actually looks like it's fake. You might want to take it back to the store. And so now the customer had to go back to Micro Center, say, hey, can I return it? Micro Center said, hey, it's legitimate. You should in fact contact Intel and get them to take it. And they went back and forth. And I think eventually the customer did get squared away. But the problem is customers are losing faith in Intel and they don't trust the RMA process. And why would they? Because this article goes on to talk about things that Intel reported to the customer saying, hey, you can send it in for RMA, but if we find that it's fake, we're just going to confiscate it. Could you imagine going to Micro Center and paying $500+ for a 14900K or something, and then it messes up on you? It's not good. It needs to be sent in for RMA. You send it in and then the company tells you, hey, this is fake and we're keeping it. Could you imagine if that actually happened? I'm grateful that it hasn't happened and I hope it doesn't, but wow. I mean, the fact that Intel has even taken this position is just ridiculous to me. I would think a simple receipt from Micro Center showing where this person in fact did buy this from Micro Center would be enough to say it is a legitimate CPU. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about AMD. AMD is looking pretty good right now, and they don't even have to do anything. Just sit back, let our competition speak for themselves, and as you can see, they're falling flat on their face. But AMD is in fact doing stuff. They're getting ready to launch their Ryzen 9000 series CPUs. Now, not all of this is without a little bit of blemish here and there. Now, the Ryzen 9000 series CPUs were supposed to launch at the end of July, but that has now been delayed due to quality control issues, and we don't exactly know what all of that means exactly. Now, there are reports about the text on the CPU itself, such as a Ryzen 7 being marked as a Ryzen 9, for example. That wouldn't necessarily impact the overall performance of the CPU, but it could lead to customer confusion, which is definitely something everybody would want to avoid. Now, I'll go ahead and say I do think some people are making this a bigger deal than what it actually is. There could have been other issues outside of this, but if that was in fact the only issue, then that's not really that big of an issue, and it's a good thing that AMD's trying to get ahead of it and fix it so they don't have to deal with this during their launch. Now, speaking of the launch of the AMD Ryzen 9000 series CPUs, we're now looking at 2 dates. So the 9600X and the 9700X will now go on sale on August the 8th, and the 9950X and the 9900X will now go on sale August the 15th. So all in all, whatever the quality control issue was, whether if it really was only a typo or if there was more that we don't know about, it wasn't that big of an impact because you're only talking about a minor delay. You're still talking an August launch, no later than August the 15th. So that's pretty good. Now, AMD unfortunately has not yet officially revealed the pricing of the 9000 series CPUs. I know a lot of people speculated that the 9000 series CPUs would probably use the same pricing structure as the 7000 series CPUs on launch, and then the 7000 series CPUs would just get cheaper in price. Now, there are leaks suggesting that that is actually not the case, and that the 9000 series CPUs will actually be cheaper than the 7000 series CPUs were at launch. These leaks are coming from Best Buy and Newegg, which are massive retailers of AMD CPUs. And if these leaks are accurate, here's what you're looking at. The 9950X will now be $100 cheaper than the 7950X, coming in at $599 instead of $699. The 9900X will now be $100 cheaper, coming in at $449 instead of $549. And the 9700X will be $40 cheaper, and the 9600X will be $20 cheaper. Now, again, AMD has not yet officially confirmed the prices, but if these prices are to be believed, then I call this a W, because it's a step in the right direction. It is pro-consumer, and gamers have more options and better value options to choose from. Now, a lot of people may not understand what I mean by that, because some people are claiming that the CPUs are still not cheap enough. They should only be cheaper, and the 9600X should be no more than $199 and all of this other stuff. Now, look, on one hand, I get it. I'm like you. I'm a consumer. I want to pay as little as humanly possible. But on the other hand, I'm also a business owner, and I understand that manufacturing costs are manufacturing costs. Supply and demand is supply and demand. Marketing costs are marketing costs. You have things that go into this. You can't just build a product for free and say, hey, make it $1, give it away to everybody. It just doesn't work that way. I'm looking at it like this. I watched the reveal event for the 9000 series CPUs, and I remember thinking, why are there no prices here? Probably because they're still deciding on that, or probably because they're just going to use the same pricing structure as the 7000 series. And then yes, my motivation for these CPUs went down. But then when this leak came out showing that, oh, no, this is $100 off, that's $100 off, another 40 off here, another 20 off there, I said, okay, wow, I'm surprised. I'm taken aback. I did not expect that. That is a step in the right direction. Now, look, I know everything's pending third-party benchmarks and reviews and all of that, but presumably you're going to get an IPC uplift in all of these chips across the board. And again, for less money than what the 7000 series was. And then you're now getting more energy efficient CPUs. The 9600X is only a 65 watt TDP as compared to the 7600X at a 105 watt TDP. The 9700X is also a 65 watt TDP, whereas the 7700X is a 105 watt TDP. And the 9900X is a 120 watt TDP, and the 7900X is a 170 watt TDP. Now, other than the presumed IPC uplift here, I don't have much to say about the 9950X versus the 7950X because the max clock speed recorded is the same and the TDP here recorded is also the same. But the price for the 9950X will be $100 cheaper if the leak prices are true. Now look, where things might get a little bit hairy is the 7800X 3D. Early reports are suggesting that the 7800X 3D is outperforming the 9000 series CPUs in gaming benchmarks. Now, number one, these are early reports that we have to take with a little bit of grain of salt. Wait until the official embargo date gets here to really make a determination. But number two, I believe it to be true because the 3D V cache is absolutely phenomenal in gaming. And that is why the 7800X 3D is the current king of gaming. That is why the 5800X 3D was the previous king of of gaming. And that is why AMD is putting the 3D V-Cache technology on more chips, because it works so well in gaming applications. But one thing I think some people forget is that is just gaming. There are other advantages to going with a non-X3D chip in other applications. For example, the 9900X will have more cores, more threads, higher clock speed, things of that nature. It's really one of those situations where you have to look at the CPU and ask yourself, okay, what is the goal here? What am I trying to accomplish? What is my use case? And that's going to be different for everybody out there. Me personally, I love the X3D chip technology. I'm a big fan of it, and I'm super excited for the 9800X3D. Unfortunately, we don't currently have any information on it, but I'm excited for it nonetheless. Anyway, with all that being said, thank you for checking out today's video. Massive shout out to all of my existing Patreon members. You all know about the super secret project I'm working on, coming hopefully sooner rather than later, so stay tuned for that. If you're new, hit that like button, get subscribed, and until next time, E-Rock out.